Hello there, good morning and welcome to News Express, exclusively brought to you by Business AM, Nigeria's fastest growing financial and business newspaper. I am Rachel Chijindu and I'll be taking you through the headlines on Business AM this morning. And of course, I'll bring in the publisher Business AM to join us for conversations. Top of the front page for the week, Shell's entire Nigerian JV divestment will see 30% bulk scale in 19 OMLs. Shell's entire Nigerian JV divestment will see 30% bulk sale in 19 OMLs. That's what I was talking about. That headline gave a detailed analysis in a Wood Mackenzie Insight, which shows that Shell, under its Nigerian joint venture operation as Shell Petroleum Development Company, that's SPDC, is divesting its entire Nigerian JV portfolio, including 30% interest in 19 oil mining leases. That, of course, is going to be the first topic for conversation the moment Mr. Philip joins in. Moving over now, we have the second headline here, just below that one, taxation. Legal experts weigh in on Rivers VAT judgment. They are saying oppressive, inequitable, inappropriate laws that give FIRS such powers. Still bullet headlines, violate extant laws enforced at time of ruling. They're also saying the one trial process followed to change laws. And then another one there, problem with VAT account, not a tax on value added, tax on supply of goods. Interesting. Moving on to the summary section now. Mosap expects more compensation. That one continues on page 4. Nigeria's CIT VAT windfall. That's in the finance and investment section. Move over quickly to the transport business segment where I have Nissan chief seeks African car. That one's on page 29. And then finally, I'm going to pick this one up from commodities in the Greek section. Nigeria out of global rubber. Page 26. I'll bring in Mr. Philip now to give us more insight on the headlines. Hello, Mr. Philip. Good morning, and thank you for joining me.
Good to be here. How was your weekend?
Weekend was great. How was yours?
It was fantastic. Thank you very much.
All right, let's kick off with the very first headline, talking about the, Shell's divestment and all of that. Now, they are saying that rather than sell single OMLs, they are seeking buyers for asset packages in the eastern, western, and shallow water delta. But Wood Mackenzie Insight analysts, they are saying that they consider only 20% of this to be commercial. And the reason they are giving is that there is a lack of investment, there's crude theft, there's insecurity, there's gas market constraints, and also they mentioned that 5 of these OMLs are underdeveloped. Do you share this view?
Now this is an interesting one. This is a story that has been trending for some time. Once Shell came out to say that it was leaving the shallow waters, that's onshore investments that it has in Nigeria, everybody was on this story. But what we have done is to look at what Wood Mackenzie has come up with in terms of a much more detailed analysis of what's going to happen. And the thing is that a lot of, I think many people do not understand the way the holdings or the stakes are held in most of these oil blocks. Now, of course, we hear that we hear the names of the operators, whether it is Shell, whether it is Mobil, whether it is Chevron or the others, But in actual, in fact, the ownership is such that some of these international oil companies have percentages in most of these oil blocks. So here we are talking about Shell owning 30%. In some cases, you could have where they own 40 or maybe 45%, but the bulk of it does go to the NNPC, who sometimes 60% or 55% or thereabout, and. Recall, Rachel, we had this issue some time ago, maybe in the 90s, where they talked about the challenges that they face with financing joint venture operations, where Nigeria was always lagging behind in terms of providing its own share of the money that is required, the fund that is required to actually carry out operation. So here we are seeing that Shell actually owns 30% of these oil blocks. And then We have oil mining leases, 19 of them that Shell is looking to sell, but we have had some oil sales round that has gone into, block sales round in terms of what you have that belong to the international oil companies that they have sold in the past. You've seen Shell has sold a number of stakes in the past, But here we are. We are hearing now that this is going to be a bulk sale. They are not going to say, okay, OML 1 or OML 35, come and bid for it. No, they are going to invite, some muzzled people who say, oh, this is the entire stuff, and you come and have a bid. Perhaps they might. I don't know whether they are going to say all the entire 19 OMLs should be put in one basket and sold off. But you are going to have a situation where they probably will say, if it's such a big thing, because we've also read in a report that we'll be carrying later on online, about the value Wood Mackenzie has put a value of $2.3 or so billion for the entire stock that they want to offload. That might be some heavy amount of money for some maybe indigenous players to put down. But what you will find is that perhaps they might have to put them in packets, but definitely not a one by one sale. So we see Shell assets in Nigeria, Eastern Niger Delta, where export is done via Bonny, in terminal, OML 11, OML 20, OML 21. That's the astronaut field that we very popular one. OML 22, OML 23, the Soku is very popular as well. OML 25, 27, and so on and so forth. So we have all these different packets of oil blocks that they will need to sell. But it's not going to be straightforward, because once Shell decides to sell 30% of its stake, it's going to be able to it's going to try to talk to the other joint venture partners. NMPC will be involved. You have some of these blocks also have what you call AGIP and maybe the other IOCs, involved in them. So there's going to be a sitting down to talk about what's going to happen, in terms of how this is going to be really divvied up and sold. But what they talk about, or some of them have not been developed. We have OML 74 and 77.
That was part of the complaint.
Not been developed. So there's a complaint that some of them have not been developed at all. So valuation, you have OML 33 also not developed. So those ones will obviously be factored in when you're talking about pricing, for these blocks, or these oil mining leases, So entirely, you're going to see that there's still some work to be done, but definitely, Shell is saying that we are getting out and we are looking for buyers to buy the entire 19 OMLs that where we have 30% stake in, So we've had a situation which I recall that last week or 2 weeks ago, we talked about the complaint around individuals owning oil wells and oil blocks, And one of the complaints that was stated by analysts was that some of these oil blocks they were just farmed out to people, but they were not developed, and that's something that is not good. So you have oil blocks oil wells or whatever OML mining leases that have been in the hands of Shell, for instance. These particular ones that we have mentioned, that have not been developed, and you can bet that Nigeria has been losing money with regards to those ones that have not been developed, and it will go to the market. We'll see whether there's still the kind of hunger that people have, because of the challenges of operating in the country, but we believe that local players will come in, we want to take over some of these mining leases, but I don't know how, given the way that they want to sell this in terms of bulk sales, we don't know how the kind of muscle that Nigerian owners will be able to put together in terms of the funding for going really deep, at this time of the economy.
Right. So we'll just wait for Shell to, make the negotiation with NNPC and, the sales terms and all of that, and reach a decision. We'll wait to see the outcome of that one on Business AM. Let's move away from that one now to the story about FIRS and the value-added tax. Now, just last week, the Federal High Court in Port Harcourt, they stopped the Federal Inland Revenue Service from continuing to collect value-added tax. This was an argument in the papers, on social media. Should FIRS be in this position? Should they be the one carrying out this responsibility? But then again, Rivers State, they've put out this law and they are saying, we want you guys to step back. What do you think the implication of this would be?
Well, there are different implications. I mean, you would look at the states, especially those states that where generates a huge amount of VAT revenues. They'll be looking at this judgment. They'll be very happy.
Yes.
But we have heard from the Federal Inland Revenue Service that they are not going to let this how do you say, slide. They're not going to let this one go. They're going to the Court of Appeal. Perhaps like some of these analysts that we've spoken to, some taxation and legal analysts, some of them have said they expect this to go up to the Supreme Court,
yes,
because whoever loses in the next appeal will want to go further. If FIRS wins appeal, the Rivers State, I'm sure, will go to the Supreme Court definitely. And then this fight will continue. But the thing is that it's all about, again, a lot of the structural issues that the people have been talking about, restructuring. I was speaking to some analysts the other day, regarding, especially when we're talking about oil block situation, and then I've spoken to a very senior lawyer, who was once a minister of works, who said, states ought to be shouldn't be arguing so much. They should be going to the courts, and seeking those things, some of those things that they're asking for. And this is what Rivers State has done. Somebody said, in this story, you see where somebody said, well, when the vice president was Attorney General and Commissioner of Justice, Lagos State, he went to court, and he got some relief, especially with regards to this matter, and although the thing hung somewhere, Rivers State, what Rivers State has done is to take it a step further. Yeah. And what they're taking it a step further, they've gotten the judgment, because when Lagos State, the current Vice President, Yemi Osinbajo, did it, he took it to one level, but did not close it up, by trying to make sure this happened, But now Rivers State has gone for that to challenge, what the legal experts are saying, especially taxation. Some of these things need to be tested, So they are testing some of these laws, and we have heard somebody say it is oppressive, it's inequitable, it's inappropriate. Very strong words that are used here. The laws that gave FIRS such powers,
I'm sorry, I need to cut you there. Now, PwC also carried out a little research, and they suggested that the federal government could gain even more, considering that about 27% of the VAT reserves currently comes from foreign non-import VAT.
That's something that they need to be looking at, we are just saying that the states where this VAT is generated, should have some hold on what the revenues that is generated, so that they can use it to take care of the states. You cannot. What they have tested now is that you cannot generate revenue from a particular part of the country, a particular state. Where the people live, and then you take it to the federation account, and also you take it to a place where you now share it by one type of formula. Where it then becomes a disadvantage to the states that produce the bulk bulk of the VAT. So for instance, you take Lagos State. Lagos State generates I think the highest in the country in terms of VAT. Which is a tax on consumption. Again, somebody has questioned that the problem with it is that it's not a tax on value added, but it's a tax on supply of goods, which again, it's where you see the manufacturers coming in. Anytime they talk about rejigging the VAT percentages, manufacturers will come in because they know that it hurts them, and then it sometimes slows the sales of goods and services and so on. So there's still a lot to be taken here. Recall, it is still going to the appeal courts. FIRS says they are going on appeal. We wait to see what's going to happen there. But these analysts have said, of course, there's a question around it, in terms of whether it is constitutional or not. I think the Port Harcourt High Court, Federal High Court in Port Harcourt has said it is not constitutional, because some of these things are often done outside the Constitution. So they look at it which would generate revenue. We should bring out what you call VAT. But the Constitution has outlined certain ways to go about things. But when these laws or these acts are created outside of the Constitution, they need to be tested, which Rivers State has done and has succeeded with what it has done, and then let it go on appeal, and then let it go on as high as the Supreme Court if it may, and then let's see what actually happens, because the Constitution needs to be interpreted, and the courts are the right. The court is the right place to test or to interpret the Constitution. The laws that are made. So if you make a law that is ultra vires, as they say in law, then it is something that when they test that kind of act like they have done, giving so much power to the Federal Inland Revenue Service, then you this is what you're likely to get, which is what's it called? They're telling you, the court saying that no, it is unconstitutional. Rivers State has the rights, to collect VAT within its jurisdiction, and then this goes across to different states. The implication is that if that holds, then you have Lagos State, you have Taraba State, you have Sokoto State.
Yes,
you have different, all the 36 states plus the 37th federal capital city.
It could even lead to a speedy amendment of the Constitution, depending on the move the federal government will make.
Yes, that again, because you see, the judgment actually hinged on what the Constitution said. The Constitution said, you cannot do this, outside of the provisions. Of course, the provisions are spelled out in the story. You cannot do this outside this provision. Under this law, because it's done outside the provision of the Constitution, it is wrong. Now, what we're going to see is that I don't know how the federal government is going to try to lobby. Again, it's the mentality of wanting to share, or putting things together to share to people, to different parts of the country. That if they want that to happen, they will have to go back to the what's called National Assembly, to see how they can amend that law. But the other thing is that if you go back to try to amend the law, is this the proper thing to do? Shouldn't VAT be domiciled in the places where they are collected? For instance, if a state is collecting 1 million naira as a VAT, and another one is collecting 300 billion as VAT, you want to put it together and then you share it in a way that
would not be fair, would it?
It wouldn't be fair. It wouldn't be fair, because the purpose of taxation or whatever, is you generate revenue, from the people, and then to use it to service to serve the people in terms of provision of amenities. So by the time you take somebody who has made 300 million in the population that has made 300 billion from a state, and you want to put it in a pool, where when it returns, it's coming back at maybe 20 million or 30 million.
Right.
That is not fair, to on the people who have paid the money. So there's still it's still a long way to go. So many things need to be tested, and it's a good thing that Rivers State has decided to test this law.
Right. We'll see how this one turns out, Mr. Philip. I'll have to wrap up the conversation at this point. Thank you so much for joining me. There are a lot of other very interesting headlines on Business AMR. Readers will definitely want to check those ones out. Thank you so much, Mr. Philip, and have a wonderful Monday morning.
Thank you, Rachel. Bye-bye.
And that was Philip Isakwa, the publisher, Business AM, Nigeria's fastest growing financial and business newspaper.